Many of us have heard or read about zombies in movies, TV series, and books. But what if I tell you there was a mystery story, little bit conspiracy of a real zombie existence in Haiti? Haiti is a small island located in the Caribbean Sea. Every year many tourists are attracted to this region for many reasons. Besides the charm of the physical aspects of the country, the visitors have more interest in the beliefs and cultural institutions of the Haitian people. Many tourists have traveled here thinking they will be able to see zombies roaming through the villages and watch the people perform superhuman feats during what is called the Vodou dances. Haiti has often been called the Vodou or Mysterious Island. Many people believe that there are some unusual facts that modern science has not yet explained. This is the story of a Haitian man named Clairvius Narcisse. On April 30, 1962, Narcisse was severely ill, so he has admitted himself to the Schweitzer Hospital in Deschapelles, Haiti. The hospital was operated by American medical staff. He had a fever and fatigue and was spitting up blood. Doctors could find no explanation for his symptoms, which gradually grew worse day by day until he appeared to die 3 days later. He was pronounced dead and held in cold storage for about a day before burial. On May 4, 1962, he was buried. That night his coffin was dug out from the ground and he was given a paste possibly made from datura. Datura is a genus of 9 species of poisonous, vespertine flowering plants belonging to the family Solanaceae. They are commonly known as thornapples or Jimson weeds, but are also known as devil's trumpets. Other English common names include moonflower, devil's weed, and hell's bells, which at certain doses has a hallucinogenic effect and can cause memory loss. The Bakar, meaning the Vodou witch who recovered him then, reportedly beaten him with a sisal whip and forced him, alongside several others, to work on a sugar plantation. He was not aware of what he did and felt like a dream during the whole time. After 2 years the Bakar died, and when the regular doses of the hallucinogen ceased, then he eventually regained sanity and returned to his family after another 16 years. Only with the death of the zombie master, the Bakar, were they able to escape. When Narcisse came back home he approached his sister, Angelina Narcisse, in the city of El Estir, convincing her and several other villagers of his identity by using a childhood nickname and sharing intimate family information. He was immediately recognized by the villagers and his family. He told them the story of how he was dug up from his grave and enslaved. The villagers were surprised, but they accepted his story because they believed his experience resulted from the power of voodoo magic. He was seen as the man who was once a zombie. It has been further argued that Narcisse had broken one of the traditional behavioral codes by abandoning his children and was made into a zombie as a punishment. When questioned, Narcisse told investigators that the sorcerer involved had taken his soul. The instigator of the poisoning was alleged to be Clairvius's brother, with whom Clairvius had quarreled over land and inheritance. This case puzzled many doctors because Narcisse's death was documented and verified by the testimonies of 2 American doctors. The case of Narcisse was argued to be the first verifiable example of the transformation of an individual into a zombie. Narcisse's story intrigued Haitian psychiatrist Lamarck Douyan. Though dismissing supernatural explanations, Douyan believed there was some degree of truth to tales of zombies, and he had been studying such accounts for decades. Legend has it that zombies are the living dead, raised from their graves and animated by malevolent voodoo sorcerers, usually for some evil purpose. Most Haitians believe in zombies, and Narcisse's claim is not unique. At about the time he reappeared, in 1980, 2 women turned up in other villages saying they were zombies. In the same year, in northern Haiti, the local peasants claimed to have found a group of zombies wandering aimlessly in the fields. The voodooists believe that when a person dies, his spirit splits into several different parts. If a priest is powerful enough, the spiritual aspect that controls a person's character and individuality, known as Ti Bon Ange, the good little angel, can be captured, and the corporeal aspect, deprived of its will, held as a slave. The Narcisse case provided Daoyan with evidence strong enough to warrant a request for assistance from colleagues in New York. Daoyan wanted to find an ethnobotanist, a traditional medicines expert, who could track down the zombie potion he has sure existed. Aware of the medical potential of a drug that could dramatically lower metabolism, a group organized by the late Dr. Nathan Klein, a New York psychiatrist and pioneer in the field of psychopharmacology, raised the funds necessary to send someone to investigate. The search for that someone led to the Harvard Botanical Museum, one of the world's foremost institutes of ethnobiology. Its director, Richard Evans Schultz, Jeffrey Professor of Biology, had spent 13 years in the tropics studying native medicines. Some of his best-known work is the investigation of curare, the substance used by the nomadic people of the Amazon to poison their darts. Refined into a powerful muscle relaxant called D-tobacurine, it is now an essential component of the anesthesia used during almost all surgery. Schultz would have been a natural for the Haitian investigation, but he was too busy. He recommended another Harvard ethnobotanist for the assignment, Wade Davis, a 28-year-old Canadian pursuing a doctorate in biology. Davis knew nothing about the Caribbean island, and nothing about African traditions, which serve as Haiti's cultural basis. He certainly did not believe in zombies. Davis landed in Haiti a week after his conversation with Schultz, armed with a hypothesis about how the zombie drug, if it existed, might be made. Setting out to explore, he discovered a country materially impoverished, but rich in culture and mystery. He was impressed by the cohesion of Haitian society. He found none of the crime, social disorder, and rampant drug and alcohol abuse so common in many of the other Caribbean islands. The cultural wealth and cohesion, he believes, spring from the country's turbulent history. When the west coast of Africa was being disrupted by colonialism and the slave trade, Haiti was essentially left alone. The amalgam of beliefs in Haiti is unique, but it's very, very African. Davis discovered that the vast majority of Haitian peasants practice Vodou, a sophisticated religion with African roots. Davis says, it was immediately obvious that the stereotypes of Vodou weren't true. Going around the countryside, I found clues to a whole complex social world. Vodouists believe they communicate directly with, indeed are often possessed by, the many spirits who populate the everyday world. Vodou society is a system of education, law, and medicine. It embodies a code of ethics that regulates social behavior. In rural areas, secret Vodou societies, much like those found on the west coast of Africa, are as much or more in control of everyday life as the Haitian government. Although most outsiders dismissed the zombie phenomenon as folklore, some early investigators, convinced of its reality, tried to find a scientific explanation. Till today, the case of Clairvius Narcisse is a mystery, and no one can prove it wrong either. But in Haiti, zombies or the living dead exist according to Haitian